Vegans, Veggies, and Vibes. I'm Karis.
And I'm Amarais.
Today we're going to be making some Kha Soup, which is Thai coconut soup. Very creamy, warm, fresh, lots of citrus. Should be great.
Let's get started.
All right, so what we're going to start out with today is chopping up our vegetables. So I'm going to start with half an onion. Get this little, I don't want to do this. Chop this little bad boy off. Because in your meal kit box, you're going to receive, if you got like the one serving, just a quarter. But I'm making this for Amarais and I today, so we're doing half an onion. And then we're going to mince up cloves of garlic, and we're going to start with that in our recipe in our pot. This is not the best way to cut an onion, but we're here. All right, for those who don't know how to chop, if you do or don't, I'm just gonna go through it. I've been experimenting lately with how I like cutting onions because it's kind of a tedious nightmare regardless of what you do. Oftentimes we'll start by like using my half and just like cutting it in half through the width and then dicing up on top of that. And yeah. And if you end up with some bigger pieces, you can just go back through and just re-chop, and easy peasy. I once saw someone yell at someone else for scraping their cutting board with the sharp side of your knife because it does dull it. So I always use the back and just, woo, efficient, clean. And then, yeah, so let's do green onion next bucket, right? We're probably only gonna need like a stalk or two.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Same thing with green onion. This one, just gonna slice up nicely. This is gonna be one of our garnishes on the top of the soup. So however you like the texture of your green onion, if you like bigger, smaller, if you prefer that it not be in like the little tubes and a little more like finely minced, go for it. Totally up to you. Get creative, it's your food. For the cilantro, because like we have very stemmy cilantro today, I'm just gonna rip off the leaves and just like roughly chop it. Just because like we still want like the nice big leaf shape, but probably just not like a giant leaf that's half the size of your thumb, And then for us, like with our stalks that aren't particularly leafy, more stalky, like I pulled off probably like, a handful of stalks, maybe 6. And yeah, I'm just gonna roughly chop that bad boy, gather it up. I find it easier to chop and mince like the very leafy herbs and spices if you kind of just like condense them all into like a smaller pile and bring your knife down, because then you can just cut through it so much quicker. You get some interesting shapes, but you get the gist. Yeah. And then, how much lime do you want?
I don't know.
We bought tiny limes, like baby limes for this. Look at those baby limes. Probably like 1 or 2, right? Do you want to do like 1 apiece?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just gonna, how do I do this? I'm gonna cut them in half lengthwise.
Yeah.
Hello. This rind does not want to be cut through.
Are these key limes?
It just said limes on the thing, but it might be key limes. Oh, look at that. Oh,
cute.
Honestly, I think they use baby limes when I've like gotten soups like this before.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm just gonna quarter these. These slices are just gonna be like, you can squeeze them into your soup. It's just another topping thing. Or you can let them like float in your soup. Again, dealer's choice, your food, your creativity. All right, now that we have all of our stuff kind of prepped and ready, we can start moving over to the stove to cook things. All right, so in this pot here, I have my olive oil heating. It's nice and liquidy, shimmery, so it's ready for us to go ahead and throw in our vegetables. I'm gonna throw in, starting in the pot, our sliced mushroom, our chopped onion, and our minced up garlic, which I forgot to show you mincing, but hopefully you get the gist. For 1 serving, about like a handful. I think the recipe says maybe like 1/4 of a cup, but that's a small handful. And since I'm cooking for Amarais and I'm gonna go with 2 of those. Throw those in your medium heat oil. And mushrooms will cook down. If you're concerned about the size and like how that's gonna fit into your soup, Mushrooms lose a lot of liquid when you cook them down, especially when you like saute them for, you know, a few minutes. Gonna put the onions in as well. Gonna let those bad boys saute until they're translucent. You want the mushrooms to be soft and probably a little brown. Don't want to overcook this though, because we still have to simmer the soup later for about 15-20 minutes, let all the flavors meld. And then I'm gonna throw in this garlic on top. All right, and yeah, we just let this cook down for a few minutes. You're gonna notice that the mushrooms have probably already absorbed your olive oil from the bottom of the pan. Don't fret, I wouldn't add too much more. It will seep back out once the liquid start cooking out of the mushrooms. Just gotta give it enough time. All right, now, if you look in here, we have the mushrooms. They've browned a little bit, shrunk a little bit in size. Some of the liquid is starting to come back out in the pan. I don't know if you can see that in there. The onions are a little translucent. It's smelling good. All good things. Now we put in all the rest of our ingredients. All right, so into our pan, which I've reduced the heat on to make sure that, like, as we're throwing everything in, we don't burn what we've already made, ruin it. You're gonna zest. You're gonna zest a quarter of a lemon. I'm gonna do half since it's for Amarais and I. Straight into the bowl. It's an easy one-pot recipe because everything kind of just goes in, you know. Turn that down. And you also want to make sure that, like, if you're zesting a lemon, you don't want to over-zest it and get too much of, like, the white, like, gross starchy part in. Just want to get the nice, bright yellow stuff on the outside. And you also want to make sure that when you buy lemons from the store, that you wash them off before you zest, because, again, that dirt and germs are still on there, and, I don't know, always a good reminder to wash your veggies before you cook.
It's also especially important if you're zesting because they coat most vegetables and fruits in wax.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, I don't want to eat wax. Y'all can live your lives the way you want to, though. As for the carrots, very similar to how we added the mushrooms. You're going to take just about a handful, a small handful. I believe the recipe says a quarter cup for the single serving. So eyeball it. Again, we call it measuring with our heart. Right, Amarais?
Oh, yeah.
And again, the fun thing about cooking is you can add as little vegetables, as much vegetables, as any different vegetables as you want to this, whatever you think you might like. So if you want more carrots in it, add more carrots. Gonna take a dash of cayenne in there. We have this squeezed ginger instead of like the root, the hard kind. Honestly, it's convenient. I'm not gonna lie. And that's gonna go, I like ginger, so a dash or two, maybe 4. Should total out to be like maybe about like a half a teaspoon. Again, it's your food, you cook it the way you like. Heat back up. Alright, and then ginger's in. I need a 1/4 teaspoon sugar. Put in some sugar here. I'm going to do just a little dash. I'm going to need a dash of liquid aminos. Where's the liquid amino? This is for, you know, that savory umami flavor. Always gotta incorporate that. Make sure you're stirring as you're adding everything. You don't want to let it set too long, burn, that kind of thing. So we're adding in a whole can of coconut milk here for the 2 of us. You notice the way that in coconut milk, the fat settles on the top, but then watch, all this oil sits at the bottom. So it depends on how you want to do it. Sometimes what Amarais and I do whenever we're cooking with coconut milk is we whisk it up in a bowl beforehand. This one, I think I'm just going to whisk into the pan to let it incorporate. Doesn't really matter since it's going into like a soup that's going to be like, this is the main consistency basically. Just going to whisk that in, work all the fat back into those oils. Coconut milk is a very, very creamy dairy substitute. It's got, like, as you saw, that fat sitting on top. It's got a lot of cream, heaviness to it. Yeah, and so like it really elevates the soup's texture. So as you see, it's starting to come together. Might smell a little sweet to you. Coconut milk kind of does that. Make sure it's all incorporated. You don't want random chunks of coconut fat if your can of coconut milk came like that. I'm adding in a full cup for our 2 servings here of the soup. Now this, it's gonna look really liquidy at this stage, and you're gonna be like, oh my god, maybe this isn't the texture. Once we let this mixture simmer for, that 15-20 minutes, it will re-thicken because of it's still going.
Oh, good.
It will re-thicken because as the coconut milk loses some of its water and as the veggie broth loses its water, we maintain like the fat texture, we maintain those flavors just a little more potent because the water has steamed out of it, boiled out of it, simmered out of it, whatever you want to call it. And the last thing I'm going to do is, now that we've kind of like assembled all our ingredients here, I'm going to bring the heat back up. You want to bring this soup to a boil. And once it reaches that like rolling boil, you're going to let it reduce the heat and let it simmer for the 15 to 20 minutes. I am going to add some salt and pepper to this to make sure, we're fully seasoned over here. And I always recommend, nice thing again about vegan cooking, vegetarian cooking, is that you don't really have to worry about like poisoning yourself from eating food that's undercooked. So always taste this as you're cooking. Make sure that, maybe I want more cayenne or I want lime juice, lemon juice, more zest, like those kind of things. Gonna give this a whisk. And we'll see you guys in 15 to 20 minutes. All right, so after some brief deliberation and tasting with Amarais, we decided that the soup, which we really like the level of cayenne we have in, it has a nice level of warmth and creaminess. We're gonna add in just a little bit of lime juice to cut through, bring out that freshness and the citrus that I really like appreciate in like a good tom kha. So yeah, that was just like a couple dashes. Don't overdo it or overdo it. You know what? If you like lime juice, you don't like lime juice, leave it out. But again, your food, you do what you want with it. And now, we'll see you in 15 to 20. Recording? Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so here we've, it's been about 15, 20. I didn't like exactly keep track, but as you can see, our soup, which is a simmering over here, I don't know if you can see it much, but like the level, it has evaporated some of the water, it's thickened. It's a really nice creamy texture. The extra lime that Amarais and I added was super beneficial to it. And so yeah, we're gonna go ahead and serve it up. So I have a ladle here and I'm just gonna scoop and pour it into our little bowls, our silly little bowls. Lots of vegetables. And like you may notice that like because it's simmered for so long that like the vegetables are a little bit softer. If you wanted to add in like any additional carrots or other vegetables that have more of a crunch for your soup, if you like that texture, absolutely go for it. There we go. All right, now to finish up our bowls, we have our soup, our beautiful broth here. Now we have all of our green veggies that we chopped up earlier. So, Amarais, do you want all 3?
Yes, please.
All right. We're doing some green onions on the top. And like, honestly, it's soup. You can't like make it that pretty, but do your best. Sprinkle to your heart's content. I'm gonna hit it with that cilantro on top next. God, I just love the way that the green looks with this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting more cilantro because I like cilantro. Do you want more than that?
Sure. I love cilantro too.
Finish this off. And then we have our nice little lime slices that we cut earlier. Just gonna drop those in there. All right, and then now you have your beautiful tom kha soup. You look in, you can see like all the green, the wonderful little broth, the mushrooms. But yeah, so from here you can add as little or as many toppings as you want, extra seasoning. Serve it with, I don't know, Amarais, what could you possibly serve some soup with?
Oh, you could serve it with any sort of grain like rice or quinoa. You could serve it with a nice bread. I love things that soak up soup.
Mm-hmm. Rice would be really good with this.
Yeah, if you fried some onions, put those on top, or even just like French onions. A good crunch is what I usually add with soup.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, a good crunch. That's what I like about like all the green veggies you put in.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, do you have any closing words for us?
Let's dig in.
Enjoy.